I just got home from my friend's funeral about 25 minutes ago. I've never cried in front of so many people that I didn't even recognise. But I did recognise his family and our friends, of course. But there were so many kids from my high school there. I assumed they read the local newspaper report. Young man found lacerated in his bedroom. No suspect found. Was all that we could see in our local newspapers. It must have been shocking. He was the second one so far in graduating class to have died. The first one was drug related, but it was kept pretty quiet. However, this one has been the talk of our town for about a week now. I guess people were just curious. The death left so many unanswered questions in everyone's heads. The cops didn't know exactly what had happened to him. I want to tell them I know, but I don't think they're going to believe me. I've decided to post it online because maybe some people here could help me understand what happened. Also, most of you are probably more open to what I witnessed. So, last month, me and a couple of my buddies were drinking and watching some TV, bored out of our minds. When I say bored, we were so bored. I believe we were watching reruns of some game show or something. You know, just the old crap. Anyway, eventually one of our friends put the idea of the website Omegle out there. We thought we were so original going onto Omegle drunk. We were laughing our asses off and shouting out insults and pressing next before the person could respond. The friend in charge of pressing next, that's the guy who died, would always stop on attractive girls and flirts, usual Omegle shit. I was stupidly engrossed in this. It was stupid, pointless fun. I remember we had just spouted off insults and my friend hit next. The next screen came up white. My friend almost hit next but hesitated. Through the speakers you could hear a low humming sound. It sounded like an air conditioner. "Hello?" my friend said with his finger hovering over the next key. None of us thinking of what to do. I didn't understand it at all. But with every second the uneasiness grew in me. Finally, my friend decided to hit the next button. However, the next screen appeared the same low hum that could be heard in the first one. This time, in place of white screens there was an image of an ordinary bedroom. It was dark, so you couldn't really see the room. All we could see was lit up in the corner was a computer screen. The shot included a bed and a little dresser off the right side of the room. Okay, so the person had left their computer on, no big deal. The mystery was solved and my friend hit next, but every next that we come up with was the same dark room and the strange humming noise. It was really uneasy by this point, and finally a girl appeared in the dark room, which made all of us jump a bit. The girl had dark black hair that seemed to go down into the darkness of the room, but other than that, she just looked like your average 18 to 20-year-old girl. My friend who was with the keyboard smirked and greeted the girl. She seemed to notice because she jerked her head in the direction and smiled. When I say smile, I mean teeth showing, like you would for a school picture. It was eerie looking, to say the least. She had her head cocked a bit back and to the left, so it looked like she was staring down at him. He turned pale white and just sat back and stared back. We were all freaking out. We didn't want this girl to look at us. At least I didn't. She never broke the stare though. My friend decided finally that he was just going to close the lid of the laptop, eyes locked with the girl, almost all the way down. We just sat there in silence for a few seconds before we burst out laughing. We all knew that she must have been on heavy drugs or something. She really liked me, my friend boasted with a chuckle. We went back to watching the game shows for a bit before we all parted the ways for that night. Everything was fine and pretty uneventful for about a week or two. Early this month, my friend who had been stared down by the stranger and the woman texted me saying how that he'd thought about that smiling girl, while he was walking around the mall, and he thought that he actually saw her. He said he was in line to get some food when he glanced over his shoulder and saw a girl grinning at him from across the food court. He said he blinked and she was gone. That quick. He wasn't too concerned with it, as he said that he was pretty high at the time. So then about a week later he called me really late into the night, waking me up. He sounded pretty urgent, saying that he thought he heard something through his kitchen. I'd gotten one call like this before off him from when he was getting high as well, and he thought his grandma was at the door, but he was crying and blubbering. It was a quiet laugh. I began to talk, saying something about him being on drugs, when he hushed me and told me that he'd just gotten home from work and he wasn't on anything. Then, in a hushed tone, he said, "I'm putting the phone on the speaker, listen." And I heard the tone of him pressing the speaker button on the phone. At first I heard nothing but his breathing, and chuckled a bit, but before I could call my buddy out for overreacting, I heard it. A slight thump. It was followed by another thump. It was a bit louder. They sounded like footsteps, and whatever it was walking towards the door of my friend's room. I could hear his heavy breathing, then he whimpered out, "It's inside my room." I could hear a slight scratch on the door. He was breathing so loud that at this point that I could definitely tell he was in there, and this was happening. Then, suddenly as it started, it had stopped. I could hear my friend's breathing getting less panicked. Then, he said he thought it was gone and that he was going to check it out, followed by the sound of the door creaking open. It went silent for about a minute before he said, "Sorry about that, the coast is clear, thank you," and hung up. The week after all this everything had happened, things seemed fine until Friday. I was sick, so decided to stay in. I was just messing around on social media and Reddit when I got a message from my friend saying, "You're home on a Friday? Get your webcam, I have something to show you." I wasn't hesitant, hoping it wasn't him having a party and trying to brag by showing me. I thought this was stupid, but before he had done this, so I wouldn't have been too surprised if he did it again. But he had done this before, so I kind of expected it again. To my surprise, we connected. It was him in his dark room. In the dark, it was only illuminated by his screen. He looked a bit pale, but nothing was really off. He said hi and brought up when we had been on Omegle and seen that girl. He said that he'd been seeing her around and he was sure that he was being followed by her. I immediately started laughing. "You're kidding," I said to him, but his face stayed deadly serious. He reached down and rolled up his sleeves, revealing some deep crimson gashes all on his arm. He said that he'd woken up the night before and she was in the corner of his room, staring at him with the big toothy smile. He said he blacked out and woke up again with these all over his arms and legs, and then he put his arm even closer to reveal that she had carved out the word "smile" over and over again on his arm. I was speechless. I thought my friend was crazy and about to call him out when a familiar sound filled my ears. The humming from the night. It was so distinct. My friend began to cry as he slowly turned his head to the right where the humming was coming from, and just when his eyes met whatever was in there, he smiled a big grin and the webcam feed went black. I closed out of the webcam app, shook up, and went on the internet immediately, trying to distract myself. On Facebook, I'd seen a new message from my friend. All it said was, "Smile." They found him the next day with his body covered in gashes from head to toe. Although he never mentioned if the gashes had smile on it or not, like the ones he had showed me. His coffin, it was the worst part. In his coffin, his face was frozen in a big grin, staring straight up at me. When I went up to say my last goodbye, I decided to confirm what I'd seen by pulling up his sleeves a little bit. The word smile was indeed carved all over it. That's really all, guys. I hope someone can help explain what happened. Was it just the drugs he did? And he did it to himself. Was he crazy? I sure hope so. Because today at the funeral, the entire crowd of unfamiliar faces, one stood out. It was a girl with black hair. She was smiling at me. Me and my friends were thrill seekers. We always did lots of stuff, but anyway, one day we decided that we were all going to go on to Omegle. So this is how my story begins. So it happened at Rick's house. There were 6 of us at the time. It was Rick, Trevor, Kevin, Charlie, Sam and myself. It was around midnight and we knew that Rick's parents were going to be dead asleep by then. So he snuck out his laptop and went on to Omegle. For the first hour we just saw the usual stuff, but nothing too much. We just saw some weird stuff like senior citizens. It's a little creepy, but I don't know, I guess anybody could be out there. We decided to chat with one more person before we were going to go to bed because we were bored at this point. We had absolutely no idea what to expect when we clicked next. The video feed went completely black on the other person's end. We thought that he/she forgot to turn on his or her webcam, so Rick typed, "Your webcam is off." A few minutes later, the person on the other side replied, "I can see you." The 6 of us looked closely at the screen and that's when we saw it. 2 eyes staring directly at us from the darkness. In case you guys were wondering, no, they weren't demon eyes or whatever eyes. They were just 100% human, at least from what I saw, but that's all we could see. No nonsense. Just that. We couldn't see any nose, mouth, not even the outline of a face. The hairs on the back of my neck were already prickling up. Rick typed again, ASL. The person didn't reply, he just stared at us. His deep black eyes seemed to scan us one by one, as if trying to read through our minds from the computer screen. I could hear his heavy breathing through Rick's speakers. I felt Trevor tense up next to me and saw what the other guys were doing. They were just as tense. The guys were seriously freaking out with me. The guy was so freaky. After an eternity, the person sent a message before disconnecting. "I will see you soon." We were quiet the whole night. We were all wide awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if that person was actually real, or whether he was a random person trying to scare us, but his presence on the other side of the screen was so upsetting, it was unsettling, terrifying even. Finally, Charlie broke the silence. What did he mean by, "I'll see you soon"? "I don't ever want to see him soon, that's for damn sure," Sam said, his voice tight. "Maybe we shouldn't go on to Omegle for a while. Who knows what the guy is," said Rick. "Or what he could do," said Kevin. I shivered under my blankets. What if it's just a prank? I mean, he could just be trolling or something. "Guys, stop. I finally had enough. Let's get some sleep and not talk about this anymore." And we did stop talking about it. In fact, after a month, it felt like it had never happened. Sure, I had dreams now and then about those black, lifeless eyes staring at me, but I'd brushed it off. I had more important things to worry about than an internet troll. The sleepover at Charlie's was a night we would never forget. It was just Kevin, Rick, Sam and I at the house that time. Trevor had a family dinner that night, so he couldn't come. It was 3 a.m. I was in the middle of kicking Kevin's ass at Mario Kart when Sam suddenly spoken up. "Hey guys, you want to go on Omegle again?" "Are you stupid?" said Charlie. "What if we see him again?" "But there's so many people on Omegle. The chances are literally 1 in a million." "You know, Sam has a point," agreed Rick. "Maybe if we go online, he might not be there. He probably won't be terrorizing anyone else." We all exchanged some skeptical looks. I thought that it was a horrible idea, but they did have a point. We might just be able to skip past him. Alright, we all said, not believing the words coming out of our mouths, to be honest. Let's try it. So we opened up Charlie's computer and went on to Omegle. It was the same as last time, all the normal stuff you'd find. Nothing out of the ordinary. We give it an hour of skipping video chats before we decided that the person must have been truly gone. Suddenly, I saw something strange in one of the chat boxes. The video on the side didn't show a person or anything whatsoever. I looked closely and saw what looked like a road of some sort. It was completely silent. Cars passed by, but no one was around. What the hell? We all thought. We watched as the camera began to walk down the street, passing by closed shops and dimly lit gas stations, and finally turning into a small suburb. My skin began to crawl. Something was very wrong, and yet we couldn't stop watching. The camera turned from the street onto another one, hiding behind trees and street lights. It glanced over some houses closed off for the night, until it finally rested on one house at the end of the street. Then my heart sank into my stomach. I wished it wasn't real. I wished that the six of us weren't seeing what we were seeing, but that was Trevor's house, and we were about to watch someone break in. The camera then went straight to Keva's mum's key that was hid in one of her garden pots, and entered through the back door. It crept silently, stealthily up the stairs and made its way into the hall, to Trevor's room. We were too shocked, too terrified to even move a muscle. I decided that the smartest thing in that moment to do would be to grab Charlie's cell phone and dial 911. So we dialed them. Hello, someone's breaking into my best friend's house. My whole body was shaking. A hand closed around Trevor's doorknob. Are you currently in the house, sir? Then the door opened and the camera stepped inside. I felt Charlie's hand grip the side of my shirt. No, we're seeing it from a webcam. I can't explain. Look. The person is in the room right now. Send someone now. Please give us the address, sir, of the house. We'll send a team right away. I was practically screaming the address to the operator. We were all in hysterics. It was horrible. The camera was directly above Trevor's sleeping form. We were screaming at Trevor to wake up, but obviously he didn't hear us. We were shaking Charlie's computer as if it could do something, but obviously it couldn't. The creep was in the room with him now. We didn't care if we woke up the neighbours, but we needed to save our best friend. Then Trevor began to stir. His eyes fluttered, then widened with shock. His mouth opened to a scream before it was clamped down firmly with a cloth. Then we were disconnected. I was on Omegle one day in my house. Nothing out of the ordinary. I was flicking through the normal stuff when I come onto one that I couldn't seem to skip past. It was really strange, but I just thought nothing of it. I just thought my browser was lagging, so I went to close it down when a voice come up. It was a blank screen pretty much, or a pretty dark room. Anyway, I sat there and I typed, "Is anyone there?" I got the response, "Yeah, I'm waiting for you, just come down to the basement." Oh, really funny. I closed my browser down and just thought it was another stupid troll. Just as I did that, I heard my dad screaming and some commotion downstairs. My heart dropped. I felt lightheaded. I went to run downstairs to see what had happened, and my dad had just chased some guy out of our basement into our yard. My dad said that somebody must have broke in. He saw him in the basement when he went to grab a drink. We called the cops, but they didn't find anything, unfortunately. It still creeps me the fuck out even to think about it today. I just don't like the intent that person had. They weren't crazy, they were evil, if that makes sense, twisted. Not a healthy, normal mind, not even the mind of a killer, the mind of an insane lunatic.